what I can put every lesson down to was my gut instinct. So every time I made a decision that was wrong, when I look back on that decision, and like I said, there's been many of them, I can almost every time say I kind of knew in my gut that it might not have been the right decision.
In this episode of my podcast, Relentless Life on Your Terms, Season 3, I sit down with the very talented Nick Reilly, who's the Managing Director of Inovayt Wealth. We talk about how he fell into business, how he developed the right mindset to build his team to over 65 consultants now, his mistakes in business and how he learned, how he's now put on a board of advisors, and how you can scale your business also. This is one amazing episode, guys, for all you entrepreneurs out there or business owners that want to cultivate the right mindset. Remember, if you like my podcast, share and subscribe. Thank you. Now, welcome to another episode of my podcast, Relentless Life on Your Terms. I have a good friend with me, Nick Reilly, fellow Cub member, an amazing entrepreneur, multi-award winning, has a team of over 65, runs a very successful finance and financial planning company called Inovayt. Nick, thanks for joining us, mate.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks for breaking my day up in these strange times.
I know, as I waited for a long time to do this interview, but unfortunately we're going to do it via Zoom. So I have had one person featured twice. So Nick, hopefully if he agrees and we do a good job today, he'll come back again and we'll do it face to face in the next 7-8 years when Melbourne opens again.
Let's get to the end of this and see how we go.
Hopefully it opens a lot sooner. So Nick, tell me a bit about your journey. Now I know that you've been in finance. Tell me how you started in business. Tell me a bit about your journey, your finance, and yeah, let's start from there.
Well, yeah, with the finance piece, I fell into it, mate. To be honest, I was actually doing an accounting degree and didn't enjoy university at all. I think I did 12 months of uni full time, and then wanted to work because you don't earn much money when you're studying. So I picked up a job through a friend doing, I guess, the admin role, a file management role or a CSM role, like we were talking about earlier, in a mortgage broking business. From there, moved into sales within 12 months, finished uni part-time. It took me 6 years, but I got there. And then, in 2007, after a couple of years as a mortgage broker, set up my own business and continued on from there. And really just started as a mortgage broker with a business partner with some support around us. Slowly grew and grew as you do, more support, wrote more loans, and then it all sort of took off maybe 4 or 5 years ago when we changed our tactic a little bit about how we did things.
I love reading what you said. It said in the last 3 years, your business has grown exponentially, but it took you 11 years to realize that. So what I want to know before we get to that point, what made you want to get into business? Because you said you fell into it, and I read that as well. How did you fall into it, and what made you say, hey, I want to do this?
Yeah, I think initially, and we spoke about this, but I'm from regional New South Wales, from a small country town. So for me, I wanted to be a lawyer or an accountant, a hotshot, so to speak, which is what I thought back when I was younger. So for me, business was something that really interested me because I didn't have a family that was in business and I wanted to do something different. So I was always interested in creating my own path, and business was something that I guess was a platform for me to do that. And I was always confident in if I worked harder, then I could do more. So for me, business was the one platform that meant, well, as much as I put in, I'm going to get that back out. So I always had that drive to work harder and get rewarded for it. So, again, lucky I fell into mortgage broking, and but it did take me a while to move away from that mortgage broker headspace into business owner. So
that's a transition that's, I guess, not many people make, not many people want to make, but fair enough. Do you think there's a formula to success, Nick?
Hard work.
Yep.
Hard work.
When I asked that question, I gave the exact same response.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot of things that add to success, but without hard work, they're all irrelevant, in my opinion. And you've got to roll your sleeves up and get dirty every now and then. And all small business owners that have been successful will know that. All medium, big businesses will know that. But it all starts with hard work, and if you get that right, generally the rest will fall into place.
You mentioned SMEs, small and medium enterprises, and Every medium business started somewhere. Every large business started somewhere. And I think when I got asked the same question, the core of everything's hard work. If you don't roll up your sleeves and lead by example, I think it's very hard to build something very special. What are some of the top 2-3 skills you've learned as an entrepreneur that would help a listener that's about to start a business or that has a business that you feel is vital? Beside hard work, because no one's going to do the work for you, what are some of the key elements? Now, I've heard you talk about delegation as well, which we'll talk about later as you're growing your business. What are some of the core fundamentals?
For me, I'm actually starting to realize this a lot more just recently, but self-awareness was a big thing for me. So understanding what I wasn't good at. So, I was very good at relationships. I was very good at sales. So a lot of clients liked me. Where I wasn't great was detail. So, self-awareness and understanding where your gaps are, I think that's one of the biggest things. Like, if you look at most really good entrepreneurs, they've got an amazing team around them. And they're really good in one area, but they fall down in a lot of areas. So self-awareness was a skill set that I've learned probably in the last 2 or 3 years. That's probably the biggest one. Outside of that, just understanding your numbers is another big thing. And this is something I've learned along the journey. Again, being in sales, it was all about more deals. Bringing those people in around me and having people with different skill sets. I've learned how important it is to understand your numbers, measure things. What's measured is managed, as you would know. So, this is something I've learned by bringing other people into the business who have made me aware of these things. So for me, that's probably the 2 biggest things: self-awareness and, measuring what you're actually doing.
Spoken like a true ex-accountant and financier, Nick, I must say. So I think it's super, super important to know your numbers. What gets measured gets done 100% categorically. And it is so important. Raising that awareness piece, I think it's important we touch on that, because people so often try to build a team or cultivate a team in a culture. But really, the easiest way to cultivate a team that I've found in my 16 years in business is to change my approach, is to change my attitude, is to have self-awareness, to really say, if I want someone to be more patient, I need to epitomize that philosophy of being patient, of communicating better. So I think self-awareness it's actually it sounds like it's obvious, but it's probably the best way to lead a team.
Well, you need to understand the impact you have on people. And that's one of the things I've learned, because you started the business, and generally everyone who's come into the business has come in under your wing to some degree, whether it be directly or indirectly through other managers. So, if you're the founder and the director and you've got younger people coming into the business, you have a massive impact on those people, whether you realize it or not, and whether you're dealing with them directly or indirectly. So, how you act is how other people will act. So you need to really be aware of, I guess, where your gaps are and what you need to improve, and understand that people are looking up to you, whether you think they are or not. So
I do believe that too. And a lot of people haven't seen that journey or the struggle to get to that point. So as you're becoming a slightly bigger business, they might walk into 10 employees, 20, 50, 60 like yourself. They might not see that journey either. So I think that's important. So a question I like to ask all entrepreneurs: what keeps you up at night?
At the moment, data breaches, to be honest. Cybersecurity. So I think there's a lot of things that we can control in our business. What we can't control is cybersecurity. Now, we can have the best defense mechanisms in place, but that's the one thing at the moment that keeps me up. Not expenses, not staff. I feel like we can manage that, but cybersecurity, I think it's an area that businesses like ours, I've got a business like yours, we hold so much data on people. So we need to make sure that our systems are watertight.
You are exposed. Someone asked me that question. I said, my kids. What keeps you up at night? My wife and kids.
Well, I don't have kids yet, so, but that's
I would have got a slap from my wife if she heard that. But anyway, I thought it was pretty funny. The first thing, what keeps you up at night? I wrote back, 4 kids. Now, you mentioned self-awareness, you mentioned stuff. If someone's thinking of becoming an entrepreneur, so they're an entrepreneur now, they work within a business and they're going to make that leap, what are some of the 2-3 key things that you will tell them to focus on when they're starting?
So, I said know your numbers before, and I think when you're starting, you need to have a plan. And this might sound like business 101, but you've got an accounting business. You'd be amazed at so many people that don't understand the industry they're in and the market that is the market that's out there, or what the size of their market is, and what is their actual trajectory for the next 12 months, 18 months. And it sounds simple, but a lot of people will go in with a business plan and then it'll get parked and never get looked at, because it'll be a fancy business plan that's almost too hard to comprehend or too hard to revisit. So the one thing I would say is have a strategic plan or a business plan. Do it on one page. Make it really simple, because it's all in your head generally as an entrepreneur. And a lot of the times you move away from a business plan because you read all these things about it, about how to put one together, and it can just be overwhelming. But you know your business plan. So,
sorry. What we finished?
I was just going to say, and the business plan should be really simple, but then you should have your numbers sorted. So, what do you think you can achieve on the numbers side over the next 12 months, and then consistently revisit that on a monthly basis.
When you say numbers, you mean expenses, cost of employees, you mean profit, sales, all the above?
All the above. And, things like entrepreneurs don't think about, okay, what's the true costs of an employee? You've got a wage, super, payroll tax, depending on how big your business is. The fact they've got annual leave, how does that look like on your balance sheet?
Time to invest in that person. It takes 9 to 12 months for a team member to become neutral before they become profitable. So the time that you also invest in that takes attention off your business. So they're very, very important points, I guess. And I think what I really liked about what you said, the strategic plan is so important. And I love the Einstein theory that you should be able to explain it well enough that a 6-year-old can understand it and explain to another 6-year-old. So if it's on one page, what people are confused, they won't execute a plan. But if it's done really simply, people work towards it and execute it. So, and if you can't do a plan, what I say to people alongside that, find someone that has done it. Find a good mentor, find a good business, find a good coach that can help you, because they usually have the answers. And I know that I know you've put on a board of advisors. We speak a bit about that, and having good heads around you that can really think strategically about your business can really help you grow. And that you've mentioned to me off this podcast that it's had a big impact on your business too, hasn't it?
It has. And, I'll quote one of our board members who's a friend of yours and has been on the show, Adrian Hondros, but I've heard him say before, if you can't put your strategic plan on one page, you're never going to execute it. And it was just brilliant, I thought, because whether it's business plan, strategic plan, there should be 6 key points. And there's obviously a lot more that comes with that, but it's probably 6 or 7 really key points. But back to your question, the advisory board has been incredible for us, because I've come from small business and I only know my business. I've been in it for 14 years. We've organically grown into a medium-sized business, but we now need people that are 2 or 3 steps ahead of us, who have been through the journey that we're about to go through, or been on the journey we're about to go on. So, Adrian Hondros, I mentioned him, ex-head of CBA Private, current CEO of Porter Davis. So he really understands culture. How do you build hierarchies within your business? So he's been brilliant. We have 2 other experts. One's legal, one's digital marketing. So just bringing people in that have expertise in areas that you don't, so we can, bounce off our ideas, which we think are brilliant, but may not be so brilliant to other people who have more experience. So it's been a game changer for us, mate, to be honest.
And you stress tested, and what you said to me as well before, and Adrian's fantastic. I was actually scrambling, looking for a piece of paper. He's got all of us to put all of us on a one page as well, because I speak to him because I love listening to his wisdom. So we're put all on a one page based on his advice. But you mentioned before awareness is so important, and your awareness is obviously very high because you've obviously seen that, and you've taken your business from small to medium. And without a doubt, you're going to take it to a large business also by having those people. And you mentioned before in finance, like myself, one thing I do promote on this show, because I'm in finance, I'm also like yourself in financial planning, collaboration. It's competition without opposition. I mean, us being able to lift each other and sharing knowledge like we do, I find it no more rewarding seeing your business grow and you helping me grow, because the market's so big. So I think we should look at it from a collaborative approach as opposed to a competitive. So that's why I really appreciate people that are in similar industries that talk to me, and I do the same. I don't think it's done enough. I think
Mm.
people think, hang on, I've got to guard my secrets. I think you should share them because it will go both ways.
Well, and you nailed it. There's so much business out there. And the second thing is you don't know what you don't know. And particularly with small business owners, again, they've generally fallen into business and they've never been outside of their own business. So why wouldn't you lean on people that are having the same problems you are? And, we're both members of Cub. Shout out to Daniel Hakem. So, I've found that to be great because I've met my entire advisory board through Cub, and obviously met you through Cub, and so many great other connections who are doing similar things. So just having someone talk about your problems, as in your business problems, because everyone's going through the same things generally. And you and I had a good chat yesterday, and we're both dealing with similar issues, and we're both trying to get to the same area. So why wouldn't we collaborate?
Well, for me, look, Cub's been it's been a game changer for those of you, the Club of United Business. I've been a member about 2.5 years. Nick's been a member even longer than me. It's helped me a lot. But even that conversation we had yesterday, I took away notes. I'm implementing 1 to 2 things in my business. I found it great. Besides the fact it's probably the best thing that I do every day is talking to like-minded people like yourself. You can learn so much. And when you're in the business, the best analogy that I love, when you're in the ring, it's hard to see the shot. But when you're outside and you're the coach, you can actually see it a lot better.
Yep.
So when you're working outside your business, on your business, not in your business, a lot easier. But also having people that aren't as close to your business, that aren't emotionally involved to your business, they can see a shot and you look at it and go, how did I miss that? I can't believe
it's so true. It's so true. And And look, even if you're looking at business partners, you can say that, but just bringing in business partners who weren't the original creator like you were, straight away, they've got a different lens on things. So whether that's business partners or other experts you bring in from an advisory board point of view, it's great to get another set of eyes on things.
100%. Now, how do you keep yourself inspired and motivated?
Oh, how do I keep myself inspired and motivated? That's great. So, look, it's challenging, to be honest, because 14 years is a long time. For me, it's bringing others in and bringing others along the journey with me, to be honest, mate. So, and that's obviously, that's not to say, I'm not saying that because I'm saying I care about people so much. Of course I care about others, but it's great having new people come in and give me a different idea on where the business can go. And that's something that's collaboration and younger. So, our general manager, Jordan's 27, 28. He's been with me 8 years now. He's just got a completely different perspective on things than I have. So he inspires me to want to come in and to want to continue to grow the business.
I was talking about Daniel with you. We were hating on you actually because you look about 25 and you and Adrian look a lot younger. Me and Daniel were saying we look a lot older. Nick and Adrian look a lot younger. So we were hating on you on episode 61 of Cub when I was on the podcast. We were complaining.
I did hear that.
I go, it's disappointing. So you look about that age, so we won't go there. Now, tell me about what book do you remember that you read that really inspired you, that was a game changer? Is there 1 or 2 books that can say that was one of them?
There's 2. The first one was Good to Great. I think that's something I've read not that long ago. I just think it's just basic business fundamentals. And the one thing I took out of that book was the flywheel effect, which most business people will know about. And I think we've hit that in our business maybe in the last 2 years. There's been such a long journey, but staying in your lane and understanding your business metrics back to front means then you'll start that flywheel effect. And then, I read that book.
Just for everyone in summary, what would you summarize that as? Momentum.
So years and years of hard work.
Leverage.
And then hitting momentum, the flywheel starts, gets a bit quicker, bang, it's off. So I guess what that book did was help me understand the flywheel effect and really gave me confidence to stick at it and look at how our business had gone from a revenue point of view and understand, okay, no, we're on the flywheel. And now we can see that it's really starting to take off. So, whether you're in business or not, that's a fantastic book. The other one is Bob Iger, the Ride of a Lifetime, who's the ex-CEO of Disney. that was a brilliant book on leadership.
I haven't read that yet. I've
Really
heard
good
you're the second person a week to mention I haven't read that yet. I've got to get that book.
And it's a really easy read, unlike some other business books. Just his journey, just his journey through Disney, and becoming a leader, trying to do a deal with Apple and Steve Jobs on the Pixar side. So just a great read around leadership and how to build a business, and understanding some of the strategic moves that Disney have made from an acquisition point of view. So mate, you'll actually love it. So they're the two books that I would easily pick them up again and read them again.
So when you talk about the analogy that I give about momentum, it's like I use this when it comes to a bamboo tree. When you water it for so many years and it doesn't grow, people think nothing's happening, but it's building foundation. I use the analogy that if you put all the work in your foundation, you'll eventually come up and you'll pop like a popcorn. You'll go up all the way, but by putting more foundation, you can build more momentum. And I use the analogy when it comes to riding a bike. When you get on that bike first gear, all the work and hard work's going in. When you start to change second, third gear, you go so much faster with less effort because you built the foundation. I think that's summarized the flywheel effect. And another good book, Nick, I know that's in your top 3, which you forgot to mention, was Your Path to Wealth, Brick by Chris Christophe. It's a great read, and I'm going to send it out to you. So definitely a good book. It talks about real estate. It's a shameless plug, but I'm happy to plug myself. There you go.
Well, I'm just saying, I can't believe the signed copy's not in the mail yet. That's the only reason. I refuse to read it until I get a signed copy.
It's actually on its way, funny enough. So you will receive one after today with a bunch of things as well. So this is a personal question. Everyone always asks me all the time. I don't even have anywhere close to the answer, so I have to ask you, Nick. How do you balance personal life and private life?
It's actually, well, yeah, it's and we didn't talk about this before, so this is an honest answer, but it is a passion of mine, because I would say around late 20s, I definitely found business taking over. So, just anxiety and tiredness, not being able to sleep, all these things. So I experienced that in my late 20s when our business started to grow, maybe even early 30s. So I got a real handle on that and the balance piece at an early age.
How?
I just by going through a tough time and realizing that something wasn't right. So for me, that I knew that I had to disconnect work and personal life, exercise, mindfulness. All these things are a passion of mine, because I've been at the other end of it, or I've come out of a bad spot. So for me, it's just non-negotiable. There's things that I do in the morning. There's things that I do at night with my wife. There's things that I do on the weekends with my wife. And I treat that like business to a degree, because I know that if I don't, then the business is going to suffer. And, we haven't spoken about this, but I'm sure you've probably experienced some issues yourself in the past. Most business owners have. So I treat it just as important as I treat the business, because I know without that and without the clear mindset, I can't perform at my best inside the business. So
I love that. I mean, for me, as I said, so the answer to your question, if I'm summarizing, and please tell me if I'm correct, structure, non-negotiables, and having boundaries between all of them.
Non-negotiables, and that's the key. And the minute you start to make your personal life second to the business, your business will be negatively affected, in my opinion.
I wish, look, as I said, it's something I'm working on. It's been 41 years. It's always been like my 5th child, and it's something that I'm struggling with, but I'm aware of it. Slowly, hopefully I can become as structured and good at you at those other things as well.
And to be transparent, it's a constant battle. So there are times where, business is great, it's exciting, you get busy, the business is growing. So there are times where you've got to check back in and say, okay, no, get back to what you know you need to do, because you know where you end up if you don't do that. So it's never perfect. You need to continually work on it, like most things.
I realized that when I passed out in the office, and I didn't tell you this story, fainted and got concussed and got stretched out to the Alfred. There you go. But I still came back to the office that day. They stretched me out. I came back in. My staff saw me. They looked at me like I saw a ghost. They go, "Hey, I'm back." I thought I was nuts, but that's a story for another time. So
I have no doubt.
Nick, you've been an absolute legend. I hope we do have that face-to-face. Did we pass the test?
Mate, I loved it. I think we
Now-
could go another hour or so, to be honest.
Excellent. I've got the quick fire questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Do you have any pets?
One cat, who was my wife's cat, but I'm slowly growing fond of it.
Name? Name?
Lily,
I had
ragdoll
two.
cat. So pretty much, very much like a dog. So unlike most cats, they actually like you.
Favorite color?
Red.
Favorite TV show?
Oh, this has changed recently. Sopranos.
Okay. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Who was your role model growing up?
Who was my role model? Great, Michael Jordan, definitely.
So Last Dance you would have loved. What's describe yourself in 3 words as a teenager.
Determined, shy, and a little bit overweight.
Wow, wouldn't have picked that. Just tell me something that no one knows about you.
Something no one knows about me. I love doing ice baths, which is crazy, it was crazy 2 or 3 years ago, but it's becoming more and more common.
How often do you do them?
Once a week minimum, sometimes twice, or jumping in the bay during winter has the same effect.
What annoys you the most? Pet peeve?
Fake people.
Huh?
Fake people.
Fake people. Me too. Best advice you've ever received?
Trust your gut.
That's true. My gut's growing a lot more, so I'm getting better instincts as I'm getting older.
I like that.
If you could have one last meal, what would it be?
Spaghetti bolognese.
Yeah, it's my one. I love my favorite.
With garlic bread.
If your house was on fire, and we're assuming your wife's out, your cat's out, and you ran back in, and you had to get 2 things, what would you get?
I would get my mountain bike.
Yep.
And I'd get my road bike.
So 2 bikes. It'd be hard to get out, but anyway, there you go.
I'd make it work.
Do you have any tattoos?
Oh, I do. I've got some tattoos that I've considered getting rid of, but I think they tell a story. So I've got a.
This is a follow-up question I shouldn't ask all the time, but I do. If so, where?
One's on my back, and one's here. So typical 90s, early 2000s sort of stuff.
Sorry, I have to sometimes censor the answers there. Best gift you've ever received?
Oh, geez, that's a great question. I'd say my first cricket bat. The reason I'd say that is I think when I was most excited at Christmas time was when I got a brand new Dean Jones Kookaburra bat. I was bad at cricket, but I loved the bat.
I'll tell you after we go offline. I'll tell you a funny story when I met Ian Chappell, who's a friend of mine now.
Beautiful.
Best gift you've ever received? We've said that. If you had one superpower, what would it be?
Love to be able to fly. You get to places very quickly.
If you were working your current career, what line of work would you be in? You mentioned before, would that be the same line?
Does sports management actually really interests me, to be honest? And I think helping people with financial planning, it's similar. You think you could really help sports people, but loving sport and loving finance and knowing numbers, sports management is something that definitely interests me.
Give me one of the hardest things you learned when you started your career.
One of the hardest things I learned. Look, there's been a lot of lessons, and this doesn't really answer your question, but what I can put every lesson down to was my gut instinct. So every time I made a decision that was wrong, when I look back on that decision, and like I said, there's been many of them, I can almost every time say, I kind of knew in my gut that it might not have been the right decision. So you can say it's the hardest. Yeah, you can say it's the hardest lesson or the best lesson, but it's like we don't want to promote gambling, but It's like when you're betting on a horse race, it's always that first horse you looked at that wins, and then you make a decision outside of that. So I don't know, for me, your gut instinct is huge, and whether it's hiring people, who you do business with, every mistake I've made, I can look back and say, in my gut, I probably knew that wasn't right.
Most of the gut instincts are correct, and it's very important. Having your gut intuition is important, but what's even more important is the conviction and action to follow through on that. And I guess you learn that as you get older. Now, from this episode, you've shared a lot of knowledge. I know that I've definitely learned a lot, and I hope all my audience has, and I'm sure you have. What are some of give me 2-3 key takeaways from all this? If you want them to remember 2-3 things based on our conversation, what would they be?
So understand the business you're in and be passionate about it is number one, because if you're not, your business will fall apart really quickly. And I look at you and how far you've come, and you are so passionate. And as well as I do, business is hard. If you're not passionate about it, you'll give it up really quickly.
You're in trouble.
And we didn't really talk about this, but dedicate a certain time to that business. So if you're going into business, make sure you give it 2 to 3 years. Don't go in and things aren't working in 9 months' time and go, oh, it's not working. You need to put yourself in a position where you can focus on that business for 2 to 3 years so that you're never drawn back to what you used to do. If you want to have a crack at it, have a proper crack at it, but make sure you've got enough money in the bank so you're never going to be worried about money, and do it properly. So that's probably the other thing. We didn't really talk about that, but that's something that I speak to a lot of people about. And the last thing is bringing people around you to support you, bringing experts. Don't be scared to have other business partners coming in. Go with your gut on those business partners and make sure they complement you, and make sure that their expertise in it, they're experts in areas that you're not, and it'll just accelerate the growth of your business.
So basically, hang around with the right people, and that all makes perfect sense. From a scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed the podcast?
10.
Thank you very much.
Honestly,
Nick, it's been phenomenal having you on. I've got a lot of great takeaways. Now, for anyone that wants to reach out to you, how do they get in touch with you? Nick's in finance, and he also does financial planning. And he's also has a great podcast called Know Your Numbers.
The Numbers Game.
The Numbers Game, sorry, which he'd also co-host. Tell us a bit about that, and how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so The Numbers Game is a podcast with 2 close friends. So Jason Robinson, who's an accountant, Martin Vidkovic, who's a business partner and an expert in finance, and then myself from the financial planning side. And we just talk about stuff that's happening in our business, that over 2 or 3 weeks when we're planning for the podcast. So really focused on small to medium-sized business, everything you need to know about finance, business, and planning. And not pie in the sky stuff. Real, roll up your sleeves. How do you make your business work, from tax, cash flows, all that stuff? And that's going really well. If anyone wants to get in touch, our website is www.inovayt, which is spelled inovayt.com.au, and all the contact details are there, including the podcast. And mate, we have to get you on the podcast.
Whenever you want. Now, Nick's also on LinkedIn, so jump on there, follow him. Thanks very much for your time, Nick.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.